if you're free and available when season 2 rolls around, I'm assuming you'll want to compete. Obviously, I know
Of course.
you've got your new job and stuff. How do you feel about how your draft kind of worked out? Would you meme it slightly again, or how do you think you would treat season 2?
If I was going to meme it, I'd meme it better than this time. This
Right,
time, meme was an absolute mess.
right.
My, I'd at least make it half competent. So it would be meanie picks, but I'd actually be able to go. I wouldn't have to go full try hard to have a chance of winning games.
Yes, because
Because
looking at your team, it's fascinating to me because it's not like the Pokemon are bad. If we run through, like, Isolgor is a decent Pokemon. Persimmon is a
it's
decent Pokemon.
alright. Yeah.
Cradily is a decent Pokemon. Drampa, Luxray, Grumpig. Kricketune will skim over. I know you like it. I have my feelings after that thing beat me last time. Quagsire. I mean, Quagsire is an amazing Pokemon. I don't even know how many times you brought it. Did you bring it more than once? Twice all season. Kecleon obviously is something that you use very effectively.
I rate Kecleon so highly.
Yeah,
I really do.
Macargo is a scary Pokemon in the right hands. Pangoro is decent, and then you traded away your Grovyle for Rufflet, which the doc hasn't been updated on. But most of the individual Pokemon you have are good Pokemon. It's the fact that the team didn't really fit together in
no synergy
any
whatsoever.
way.
It really doesn't.
Your only removal was
It
Drampa.
genuinely has no synergy.
And you had like Hazard Stack with a Cellgore, but then your only removal was a Defog with Drampa.
I had one defogger.
Yeah, like so you'd have to remove your own hazards anyway. You had no grounded poison to soak up T-Spikes, so you were T-Spikes weak.
Nope.
You had a sticky web option, but it was a Kricketune. And your two.
Hey now, I brought Kricketune 8 times.
God. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, somehow,
It
yeah.
ended up with 5 kills. That's more than Grumpig. That's more than Quagsire. Heck, that is more than Pangoro.
And that's the other thing I was going to say is that your main your main sticky web abusers.
In fact, it is the joint 3rd highest. No, it's not 4th highest kill rate on my team.
Well, most of those were against me in our first game. I think it got like 3 kills against me. But looking at your sticky web options, I mean, Kecleon doesn't mind webs, to be fair. But Persimmon plus Pangoro are your main sticky web abusers, and they're both physical fighting types. I know that.
Luxray. You missed Luxray.
Well, the thing with Luxray is you didn't often abuse webs with Luxray as much as I saw you abuse Trick Room with Luxray.
I think that's actually not true.
Is that just my scars showing? Is this my memory?
I feel like, well, it depends upon matchups. Like week 1, I brought Trick Room, which immediately opened everyone's eyes to the fact Luxray just got 5 kills immediately.
And maybe that's what's sticking in my memory. Maybe that first week is like, oh god, yeah, okay.
Week 3, I don't think I brought either option against Elliot, but I had to sack Luxray.
You did bring Luxray against me, I think, in
Gareth,
week 2.
I brought Sticky Webs. So at this point, it's 1-1.
Yeah.
Against, I brought Sticky Webs against Anus, Dreadful Dragonite.
Yeah.
Before you ask who. Against Nico, I don't think I brought it. No, I didn't.
Maybe it's just week 1. I remember. Maybe that made such an impression.
I brought Sticky Web against Toasty versus Rob. I brought defensive, or especially defensive, against Jake. I don't think I brought it. I didn't really bring it all that much, to be honest.
It's still got 16
kills. I didn't bring it against
kills,
Sean because I said I wouldn't. It got more than 16 kills.
Well, it got 16 in the regular season.
I brought it against Sock in the quarterfinals. Again, I didn't bring either option.
Oh, okay.
So actually, it was mostly Sticky Web.
Mostly Sticky Web. That's
Looking
fair.
back,
That's
semi-finals against Elliot, I brought Trick Room, but it was fast set, so it wasn't there to abuse Trick Room. That was predominantly Kecleon.
Nevertheless, it's not. When you think of offensive synergy, Luxray, Persimmon, Pangoro.
It's not what you think of.
There's not. It's not like they don't complement each other, but it's not like they do massively.
They're very indifferent.
Persimmon plus Pangoro, I can see, that bulky psychic types might have a difficult time. Ish, you can wear through fairies, but they're both physical and yeah, it's it's not a team with as much synergy as you're capable of drafting. That's what I would say. It's not, and that's what I think was crucial with your draft this season, was not that it was individual bad Pokemon, but that everything you put together made little to no sense. But somehow it worked. You found a win con in each game.
Well, most of my time the win con was Luxray. But
yes,
it was when you have to look at the depths of my team. Like, so many of them have different options.
Yes.
And it's because they're low tier. So many people don't have experience with low tier things.
Yeah.
Like, Kricketune against you didn't have any idea what was happening.
No clue. No idea at all.
Luxray, no one expected Luxray to do anything. I'm pretty sure.
Well, Dean and I...
Trick Room, it can do Screams, it can do Calm Mind, I actually did a number of pre-builds against you. So my first idea was to run a Calm Mind Papa Berry recycle set.
Right.
I also thought of a Calm Mind Salak Berry set, which I was going to run for the longest time.
Yeah.
But my favourite set in the pre-season, from the pre-game builds, would have to be from a Selgor. I was going to run Focus Sash, Unburden, Me First to Selgor.
Well,
because Me First on Boomburst, Oko's Swellow.
That would have been cool. That would have been a nice bait.
So
I'd have held my hands up there.
I was so adamant on bringing it, and everyone complained to high heaven. No, he's going to be physical. And I thought, okay, yeah, I can understand why he's going to be physical, but it was actually more there for a Baton Pass Acid Armor set, because I wanted to Baton Pass and Acid Armor into Grumpig, Calm Mind, and set up that.
Oh, God.
So,
well,
I had a really offensive team. Hyper offense.
For what it's worth, those kind of Grumpig sets would never have worked with the Sork intact because of that sturdy laser focus knockoff. Meaning I would have crit you through your boosts anyway, and so somehow I accidentally had a good check to those sets. I didn't know that it was there to hit Grumpig as well, but I didn't know it was to try and hit a Baton Pass Acid Armor Grumpig. I had no idea that was on the...
I had stuff like Shalonberry Dramper.
Yes, I did think Shalonberry had potential.
Luxray, Magnet Rise Lux. I've run Choppleberry almost... probably six times with Dramper. Because I have such bad fighting checks, I've loved Dramper this season. I cannot sing its praises highly enough. It was the reason why I've won so many of the games. Yeah. Nothing else. Nothing else has had so much work, in my opinion.
And not even because it was like a defogger. Like we most people look at your team, they're like, okay, Dramper's gonna be defog, but it's not been that at all.
Not for defog. I very rarely brought defog. But what it does is it baits fighting type. Because fighting type is so spammable against my team.
Yes.
I can bait it.
Yeah.
So I just lead with Dramper. They lead with their Primeape, whatever it is. If they U-turn, great. I get a free Hyper Voice.
Yeah.
If they go for a close combat, nom nom nom, and a Choppleberry, it brings me into Berserk range. And then suddenly I'm at +1. I don't need investment to kill.
And that's a really interesting thing about Pokemon like Dramper and like Vikavolt, Luxray, things like this in this metagame. Because there aren't that many hugely bulky mons, something like Dramper will kill nearly all fighting types in the format with a Hyper Voice. So you don't need to have
a... There was one I encountered.
Yeah, so you don't need to run super effective coverage. Which means that then the switches into Dramper aren't as free as if you were trying to tech like a Psychic or something and they can just bring in their Dark type. It's not that easy to switch into a Dramper Hyper Voice. There's not many things that are immune to it, with Ghosts not being that common in this format. So I think it was... this format is very different to the regular draft tier, in my opinion, because of how low it's cut. Next season, I think it's going to be slightly different with which Pokemon are allowed. Obviously, you and I have inside information, which I'm not going to spoil. But I do think that will change the metagame quite a bit from this season.
What I would say, though, is I think we should be able to franchise one Pokemon from like tier 3 or below.
That would be really interesting. What would you consider franchising if you... I don't know if you are comfortable... Well, not Luxray. Not your kill leader, then tier 4. Cricket.
No, genuinely though, I definitely want to franchise
Dramper. Okay, that makes sense. For me, if I was gonna do it, a Licky in tier 3 has been nice, but maybe Matang. I know that sounds weird, but getting a steel type on the board before the draft even starts, I've liked Matang, and I don't want to have to pick it early so other people don't take it. So, yeah, that would probably be mine.
The thing, in its tier, it's fantastic.
Yeah, tier 5 is awesome.
Stuff like Morwile is in tier 4, and even tier 3.
Yeah,
then
just
Matang is bulkier. Yep. It still gets access to stuff like Stealth Rock, better coverage.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a fairy type, but who cares?
No, Matang, in my opinion, is better than
I'm sure you don't need a fairy type to win leagues.
Yeah, well, apparently you didn't, so who knows?
Exactly.
What is a Fairy Dragon Steel Core when you have Dramper and that's it?
Exactly.
But
I don't think I even had a Steel type, did I?
No, you didn't. That's what I'm saying. Dramper was your Fairy Dragon Steel Core, and most people would tell you that Dramper is not a good dragon, so... But in this league, that actually brings me on something that I want to discuss about my draft. With Swellow in this league, what I really found was that because steel types were not all that common, I almost felt like the teams that just automatically lost to me, because there were some weeks where that kind of happened at matchup, were the teams that didn't have rock types, because rock types are so overlooked in regular draft format. You don't need a rock type in an OU draft usually. In this format, I think if you don't get access to a high tier steel, you kind of do need a rock type, because normal types are really, really good down here. Ursaring is putting in work for Tony in Division 2. Facade, Facade on your Luxray though, it wasn't even stab, but Facade was so spammable for you on Luxray that I think... and as we've said, the hyper voice on Dramper, I really think that rock types going into Season 2, more people will realise, hey, if I don't get a good defensive steel, I'm going to need a rock type.
Why do you think I drafted Magcargo and Credillion?
But if we, like, I have the other teams open in front of me. Toasty had his Gigalith, but other than that, when you look down the list, there aren't many...
If you have a look at rock types, you tell me how many of them have reliable recovery.
Oh, yeah.
There's 3 I can think of off the top of my head.
Credillion, Magcargo.
Credillion, Magcargo, and the other one I can think of is Corsola.
Yes. And maybe if you go down into...
I think Solrock does. Solrock on Lunatone might do.
No, they don't get recovery, I don't think. I'm pretty sure. Oh, no, Morning Sun. They get Morning Sun.
Morning Sun.
Maybe.
Moonlight.
Maybe.
That's the only thing I can think of that gets recovery.
Down in Little Cup, Lileep might get recover. I know it doesn't get Leech Seed, but Lileep might. Oh, maybe it gets Leech Seed, not Rocks. Lileep doesn't get one of either Leech Seed, Rocks, or recovery. I can't remember
Lileep and Creddy don't get Leech Seed.
They don't get Leech Seed. That's it then. Because I looked at drafting Lileep before, and I was like, this doesn't get Leech Seed. That would be its best set.
I mean, not Terrakion. Archeops gets Roost.
But it's...
I don't even remember if it's allowed there.
It's an Archeops anyway. You're not going to be using it as a bulky rock type.
Challenge accepted.
Well, yeah, maybe you will. But most people are not using it. So yeah, really, that's one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm just gonna go over my draft very quickly. So I had Swallow, Sort, Gramble, Licky, Hypno, Camerupt, Matang, Blastoise, Cryogonal, Mudbray, Sceptile, and Pachirisu. And one of the key things going into this draft was I wanted to draft some Wishmons. I'd never used Wish support before. This was really, it's worth mentioning at this point. I think this was really my 3rd league at the time. People can correct me if they've been following the channel and they remember better than I do. But I think I'd had ABC. And I'm counting full leagues that I'd been in from beginning to end. I'd had ABC, and I'd had Owl, and then LTC rolled around. So, that I'd done on YouTube and taken seriously. I had never tried Wish support, and it was just after Flo had destroyed me in the UCC with Alolax. And I was like, damn, Wish support is really good. I'm going to draft me some Wish support. So I drafted things like Gramble that doesn't get recovery, Matanga doesn't get recovery, Blastoise doesn't get recovery, Mudbray doesn't get recovery, Pachirisu doesn't get recovery, because I was like, I've got Hypno and Licky, it'll be fine.
I genuinely do think that is actually a fairly reasonable way of going about it. If you have a very reliable Wish passer,
yes,
you don't need recovery.
Yes.
And Licky is an unbelievably good wish passer.
Really good, really, really good. And I do feel like at times it worked, but for most of the season it didn't suit my playstyle, where I was getting frustrated having to wish pass into things like the Blastoise. It was almost too easy to predict. Like, you were able to just predict that I wanted to get the Sork in, and
it can be very difficult to actually wish pass into something on low health.
Exactly.
You have to get timing spot on.
Right,
You have
right.
to force the opponent into the right situation, and then you have to make the right call.
And
But
what I've
if you can do that consistently, and if you don't let things get too weak, it's a very frustrating strategy.
And it also something like let's Alomomola, right? I think most people would say that Alomomola is arguably the best wish support in the metagame. There are things like Togekiss that I think do it pretty well.
I think you're missing out on some of the big ones.
Chansey and
Stuff like
Blissey.
Sylveon, Florges, Umbreon, Vaporeon.
Yeah.
Stuff like Clefable, Latias.
None of those are legal in our format. Although it was Aloe, actually. Maybe. I know, because Dean didn't want any of the fat stuff. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Things like Latias and... Well, I don't know. I think Aloe's better wish support than Latias in some respects, in terms of just as a wish. But I agree, Vaporeon...
Predominantly for wish, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but
Aloe's pretty good.
I'll give you Vaporeon and Sylveon, maybe Florges, have their debates, but particularly focusing in on Aloe and arguably Vaporeon, actually. They just want to be wish support. Aloe doesn't really often want to do a lot else. It's pretty passive. Yeah, whereas I felt so restricted with Hypno and Licky Licky to always having to make them wish support on my team, where actually Licky Licky had all of its best games when it was a Curse Rest Talk set. And it felt so frustrating to me to always have move slots taken up with Wish and to have to play around with it, that in the ABC, that's when I then drafted Slowbro Amoonguss. Because it's like, hey, these have Slack Off, Synthesis plus Regenerator. I am so much happier now not using Wish support. I've really decided that it is not for me. So that's something that for me,
you can't just use any wish support. That's the thing. You have to find things which have synergy. And now, one of the best combinations I find with wish support is Vaporeon and Mega Aggron.
Yes.
Because you can easily get in Vaporeon, and then Vaporeon gets a slow baton pass. It gets stupidly fat wishes.
Yeah.
And I know that draining feeling when you whittle down a Mega Aggron and then watch it come all the way back up again.
Yeah. And
it's very frustrating.
That's how I felt with my team, was that Licky Licky invited in fighting types. The things that I wanted to give health back to were like Blastoise, Mudbray, Metang, these things. None of them actually wanted to switch into a fighting type, especially Blastoise. And the same with Hypno. Hypno just invited in knockoff spam. And nothing really wanted to switch into a knockoff. Blastoise doesn't want to lose its leftovers or whatever, that gives its passive recovery that way. So I was really just getting frustrated with the fact that I don't think I matched up my things that wanted to receive the wishes that well with the things that wanted to give the wishes. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it's also you have things, as I was saying about the Mega, you have things which specialize. They can afford to specialize. Some of the best wish receivers, stuff like Goodra, Mega Agri, they have such a high stat in one way.
Yes.
You can afford to pump into it and you don't have to worry.
Yes.
You can afford to run things like a Soul Vest because you know if you're getting wish support into it, it can maintain its health.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's finding that balance and actually having something which excels in a stat, whereas lots of your stuff could be gone one way or the other. Like Gramble, for example, is a much better wish receiver. Because with Intimidate, once it's invested, it's actually really physically defensive.
And that
Blastoise has got good physical defense, good special defense, reasonable HP, but it doesn't specialize.
And
so it can't get that recovery on either hit. It has to. I don't know if I'm making very much sense.
No, 100%.
I think 100%. You just have to play around it. I think you should definitely try drafting some wish support again.
Well,
don't make your team based around it.
Yes, and that's the problem. That's what I was gonna say. Is I've drafted wish support mons like Togekiss. People will say I'm stupid for this, but I've got Salamence in Owl, and at some point I'll probably bring a wish support Salamence because it can be bulky with that Intimidate and stuff. So I'm not against wish support, but exactly as you say, I will not build my team around it again. And one of the other things that I just wanted to touch on briefly was that I did make some trades immediately after the draft to try and fix speed tiers. I just traded away what's that, Serena, and I traded away, I think I had like plus or minus in one of those two. I can't even remember. Dedenne. I traded away Dedenne. I traded away Serena, and I traded away something else, and I gained Cryogonal, Sceptile, and Pachirisu. The reason being that I wanted to fix my speed tiers. Having seen your team this season that you've gone on to win it with your speed gap between Grumpig and a Selgor, and other teams that I've been using in other leagues, I really have learned that speed tiers are not the most important thing in a draft.
They're not the most important thing. However, I would say that with my speed, I struggled.
Yes, yeah, because your speed gap is so extreme.
The speed gap isn't the problem. It's the top speed.
Yeah,
because I'm not going to... Without a Selgor, my top speed is 80.
Yes.
Because a Selgor, no one's going to try out speeding a Selgor.
No.
They don't have to.
Yeah.
A Selgor doesn't have a super high attacking stat.
No.
So...
And it doesn't take hits either.
As long as they've got bulk enough to take a hit, who cares if you outspeed it?
Yep. Yep.
You can quite easily just make sure you outspeed the Grumpig. So base 100s, they can run Adamant, and they can have to run max speed. They can 120. It probably don't even need much investment.
The one thing that I think has really been noticeable for me, though, during this season was the amount of teams I went up against. Because the thing that I filled was that Cryogonal and Sceptile filled the gap up to Swellow really nicely. So I don't think there was any speed matchup you could have, unless you were super faster than Swellow, where you could run Modest or Adamant. I don't think there was a single speed tier I didn't fill. But what I found during a lot of the season was that very few teams had anything in that speed gap in this format. Because this format is such a slow format, there wasn't many things that could do it anyway.
When you get fast things, they generally seem to be at extremities.
Yes,
like
yes, that's very true. That's very true. Swellow.
It's not just fast at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fast.
Completely agree. So I really regret those trades, and people told me, and I believe in holding my hands up and whatever. I will fully admit that I made a mistake with those trades this season. I think had I had Serena on board, that would have been a lot better off. I will stand by Dedenne for Pachirisu because Pachirisu is an incredible Pokemon. I love that Pokemon so much now.
Can I also say though, you failed.
Why?
Because Sceptile, I don't even know if it got killed this season.
It did, but it did not make top 3. Nowhere near. My MVP was Licky Licky because I swapped with it like twice and I got 10 kills and so it became my MVP. Yeah. I didn't even do that well with Swellow until the end of the season. I really didn't figure it out until late on in the season.
Mm.
Yeah, but
by figure it out, you mean just run choice specs?
Entirely, yeah. And I just, I don't know. I really liked aspects of my team. Swellow, I would draft again for sure. Sork, I would love to try again. Gramble, Licky Licky, but not together. There was just too much of a mishmash. Blastoise, I was not a fan of.